Hello viewers, how are you? As you know that I am Dr. Jetling Ellosa, running a channel in the YouTube called Law Speeches, and from time to time I am posting my lectures and speeches on different facets of law as well as the world affairs. Today we discuss another important facet of life and liberty, that is the right against exploitation. So before embarking upon my lecture, I request all of you to subscribe to my channel. If you feel that my speeches or lectures are worthy enough, like it and watch it and share among your communities. So just I told you that today we are discussing the important aspect of the life and liberty. Though as you know that Article 21 is there, which is considered as a hallmark article in the Constitution of India, that provides, though it is a small article, which I quote here, no person shall be deprived of life and liberty except according to procedure established by law. And that these words have elaborately came before the High Courts and also this Apex Court of the land, and it has innovated, it has been interpreted what is life and personal liberty. As I already have a lecture is there in my channel, in detailed lecture. So life and personal liberty means every aspect of our life. We cannot generalize this is a life, this is a personal liberty. Both are interchangeable aspects. So in continuation of this life and liberties, the makers of the Constitution of India provided a separate article, Article 23 and 24, which deals with the right against exploitation. You know, ours is a unequal society, and in one segment there are oppressed and suppressed class of people, and only a few percentage of people are well developed. So inequalities are there in respect to social, economic, political, civil and other aspects. As you know that inequality leads to exploitation of the oppressed and depressed class of societies. It is a common observation of the world history is concerned. So in India is also not exempted from that aspect. So to bring a kind of a equilibrium in the society, we have to minimize the exploitation. So with that view, the makers of the Constitution have enacted and they have devoted 2 articles for this purpose. That is Article 23 and Article 24. So Article 23, which provides that prohibition of the traffic in human being and the forced labor. So traffic in human being means there is, as you know, ours is a developing society, and women and children, they are mostly prone to exploitation for the different purposes. Women are physically and psychologically exploited, and children also, they have faced the same situation. So to avoid this, the traffic in human beings is prohibited under the Article 23. So any kind of traffic, that means selling of women, children, buying of women and children, it is totally prohibited. And if anybody does, he has liable for criminal prosecution. You know, in Indian society, women have given a lot of respect from the ancient times. Woman is called as a Stri Murti, a powerful. That is only for words. The practical concerns are concerned, woman is always exposed to all sorts of hardships. The same with the case of the children. So, under Article 35 of the Constitution of India, the women and children have been provided of a special act, because Article 35 empowers the state to make a law which to attain the objectives enshrined in the Constitution of India. So with that view, the Parliament of India had enacted Suppression of the Immoral Traffic in Women and Girls Act of 1956. And that has been, nomenclature has been changed. That is now called as the Immoral Traffic Prevention Act of 1956. So this act clearly debars, prohibits any kind of traffic of women or girls. If anybody does violates, they are criminally be prosecuted. And the Article 23 also prohibits the other forms of forced labor. Like, you know, we have the system of Begar, where the indentured labor people were purchased and they are forced to inhuman conditions of the labor activities. That also been prohibited by the Article 23 of the Constitution of India. So in a famous case called People's Union for Democratic Rights versus Union of India, the case is reported in the All India Reporter 1982, SC page number 1943. The court held and quote here that Article 23 is a wide and unlimited and strikes at a traffic in human beings and beggar other forms of forced labor where they are found, that is clearly prohibited. And the apex court of the land has further stated in a case called Sanjit Roy versus the state of Rajasthan, which is reported according to the reporter 1983 SC page number 328, where it has stated that if the wages were not paid to the workers, minimum wages were not paid, and it is nothing but it be considered as the offense, and it is a violation of the Article 23 of the Constitution of India. And further, the Supreme Court of India in a Dina versus Union of India held that prisoners also have the right when they work for the, as per the orders of the authorities, they have to be paid off for their work. If not, that means that they are liable for the remuneration or wages for their work. If not, means it is a violation of this Article 23. Another important case, that is the Bandhu Mukti Morcha versus Union of India. The case is reported in All India Reporter 1984 SC page number 802. The Supreme Court held that a public interest litigation can be filed challenging the action of the state, and though it is the petitioners are not a party to that matter, but if they are the public spirited persons, they can file the public interest litigation in the high courts and supreme courts. So this is a very landmark case where onwards the public interest litigation was started in our country is concerned. So likewise, a series of cases are there with regard to Article 23. So Article 23 is a kind of article which is protecting the rights of the women and the children. And the Article 23 clause number 2 also provides that if the state needs compulsory services for the public purpose, then we have to work. The women and children, they have to work. It is nothing but it is a kind of exemption to Article 23. Then we have to go to Article 24 of the Constitution of India, which provides that prohibition of employment of children in factories. So it is another important aspect which covers the child labor. You know, in our country, the child labor problem is a very, very acute and prevalent during 90s. Though Constitution of India bans the child labor from 19 when it came to force. So here the Article 24 provides prohibition of child labor children in factories. So this article provides there is a age criteria, that is a 14 years of age is considered as a to be identified as the children. But if you see the other labor legislations like Railways Act, Shippings Act, Coal Mining Act, so different enactments, labor legislations, the child labor age is not universally accepted. Some enactments provides 14 years, some enactments provide 16 years. As on today also, this kind of lacuna is there with regard to age of the children. There are around 15 to 20 enactments which are differing with regard to the age of the children is concerned. But Constitution of India provides the child labor children means it is below the age of 14 years. Then regarding this also, we have some Supreme Court cases are there. So before going to Supreme Court cases, you know, children are asset of the nation. Today's child is tomorrow's citizen. With regard to that, in 1986, we had enacted the Child Labor Prohibition Act of 1986. Then the question comes to our mind, why there is so much delay in enactment of this Child Labor Prohibition Act in 1986, though the Constitution of India came in 1950s, because social, economic, civil and other constraints, this enactment was delayed. When the Rajiv Gandhi became the Prime Minister of India, it was seen the light of the day, because there are some families in our societies, they depend upon the child labor. In addition to that, we have international pressures also been there for prohibition of the child labor. Though we are not party to the International Convention on the Child Labor, Prohibition of Child Labor, but there are other international covenants we have signed. Then it became a burden upon us to frame the law to ban the child labor. So that is the reason in 1986 the Child Labor Prohibition Act was enacted. You know, international pressures are concerned. You know, we can see the rampant child labor in brick industries, fireworks industries, hotel industries, and some other industries. Some pressures came from in America in 1990s. The American Congress man, Don Barton, he had introduced one bill in the Congress, prohibition of the things which have been manufactured by the children. At that time, in much of the industries, in the textiles and cotton, children were employed. If it has been passed, there would have been lot of effect upon our exposed to United States of America and the European countries. No doubt, it is the need of the hour is to prohibit the child labor. But circumstances are there which forces us, a child has to work, otherwise the family may not survive. So those were the circumstances during those days. So ultimately good sense prevailed in the American Congress. Don Burton, he wanted to impose a ban under Section 101 to ban all the products from India, and he was withdrawn his legislation. So things are like that. In India also, the apex court of the land also from time to time had been pronouncing the very, very landmark judgments in banning of the child labor from the different sectors. Those are the, I quote here, the People's Union for Democratic Rights vs. Union of India. The case is reported, All India Reporter 1993 SC 1473. So here the Apex Court of the Land had an occasion to discuss the Employment of Children Act of 1938. And in this case, Supreme Court has clearly stated that employment of children is concerned in the because there is act is there. As per that act, children can be accommodated, but there should be certain sectors they cannot be accommodated. Those sectors are dangerous sectors, hazardous sectors, they cannot be accommodated. And in one more case, Salal Hydroelectric Project versus Jammu and Kashmir government, reported All India Reporter 1984 SC 177. So the court had stated that construction industry is a hazardous industry. In a hazardous industry, the child labor cannot be employed. And so from time to time, courts have been providing the what is hazardous, what is not hazardous judgments. But you know, if we observe the Child Labor Prohibition Act of 1986, there is one schedule is there where around 9 sectors have been declared where child labor cannot be employed. Those include railways, ships, construction, like that. These sectors, the child labor cannot be employed at any point of time. If this, because these are be considered as the hazardous industries, so child labor is strictly prohibited. But the question before us, that means that in non-hazardous industries child labor can be employed? Is it not a shame upon us? Maybe it is a shame, but some circumstances, because it all depends upon the family, all depends upon the circumstances. That is the reason we are, India not completely banned the child labor. We can say that we are partially banned the child labor, but their international pressures are there. From the International Labour Organization conventions are forcing us, though some of the conventions we are the parties, but in spite of that, the complete prohibition of child labor is not became a reality. But I hope, because we had a lot of transformation has been changed from the 1960s, 80s and 90s and to today's society is concerned. So the day will come and the government has introduced many schemes for the welfare of the children, their education, societal needs. So the day will come that India will see there is a complete eradication of the child labor from our sphere. Just I told you that today's child is a tomorrow's citizen. That was stated by Wordsworth. So it is a high time to policy makers, administrators, governments should think and to ban the child labor from all the sectors. So thank you for watching my lecture. Once again, I request all of you to subscribe to my channel, and if you feel that my lectures are noteworthy, knowledgeable, informative, please like it, share among your communities. Thank you, and all.